I think I'm having contractions. Can you drive me to the hospital? When the labor finally started, I asked my husband who was at home. He agreed with a look of annoyance. I got ready in a hurry and followed him out the door. We reached the parking lot of our apartment complex. He got a message on his phone. He stopped to read it and then uttered something unbelievable. I've been invited to have drinks with my co-workers. I gotta go now. What? I couldn't believe my ears. There I was, enduring the massive pain, and he was going to a dinner party. I desperately pleaded with him. Are you kidding me? I'm having contractions right now. He just shrugged it off, saying, Take a taxi or something. You'll be fine. Seriously? Wait! As I was about to protest, another wave of pain hit, and I crouched down on the ground. Without even glancing at me, he hopped in the car and drove away, leaving me behind. At that moment, I was quietly seething with anger. I swore to myself that I wouldn't let him get away with it. Little did I know, he would end up begging for my help later on. I'm Sabrina, a 29-year-old part-time homemaker. I'd like to share a bit about my background first. My father, Harold, is 62 years old, and my brother, Simon, is 4 years older than me. My mother passed away when I was in grade school due to illness. She was fragile but kind, and I still remember her fondly. I mourn her loss deeply. My father and brother took care of me and raised me with lots of love following my mother's passing. My father is a high school physical education teacher and holds a black belt in judo. My brother, who's been trained by my father since a young age, became a police officer and is also a judo expert. They both have intimidating and tough exteriors, but they're actually down to earth and shower me with love and care. I can't thank them enough for that. So, when I got engaged and introduced my partner, I was really excited. I met Kai through work. He was a sales rep of my company's counterpart. Initially, we only discussed work-related matters, but gradually, we started going out to eat together and deepened our connection. His parents both had a background in wrestling, which gave us a common topic to talk about as I came from a judo family. While neither of us practiced combative sports, we bond over the shared experiences and inside jokes related to having similar parents. After 2 years of being together, he popped the question, and I happily accepted. Our first step was to visit my family to make the announcement. Given how overprotective they had been, I was worried about how they would react. But to my surprise, my father teared up. Oh my, you're getting married. I'm sure your mother in heaven is thrilled. I'm really happy for you. My brother seems to be overcome with emotions too. Congratulations to both of you. Kai, take good care of her. Seeing them like that, I couldn't help but get teary. We then went to see Kai's family. I was welcomed by his father, who looked as strong and sturdy as my father, and his gentle-looking mother. They were also overjoyed by the news. What a pleasant surprise! I'm so glad to meet such a lovely girl. We wholeheartedly welcome you to our family. Kai, you must do your best to make her happy, okay? With the blessing of both families, we got married. Afterward, we rented an apartment midway between our families and started our newlywed life. I was looking forward to spending some romantic time together. However, my expectations were quickly shattered. He didn't help with any household chores. He even made chauvinistic comments like, "Housework is a wife's job. Show more respect to your husband." Despite often working late and on weekends, his attitude remained imposing. Still, I loved him, so I endured it and took care of the house by myself. Half a year after our marriage, I found out I was pregnant. I shared the news with him, expecting him to be thrilled, but all he said was, "Oh yeah?" I was disappointed, but my happiness was undeniable. I immediately told both our sets of parents. They were excited, especially my father, who seemed overwhelmed with joy. "I will be the grandfather, huh? This is the best thing ever. Take good care of yourself, Sabrina." My in-laws were equally supportive. "If there's anything we could do to help, just let us know. Don't be shy, okay?" Everyone seemed to be over the moon, and I was looking forward to a healthy and happy pregnancy. I hoped that Kai would change his way, knowing he was going to be the father. Soon after, I started experiencing morning sickness. It was more severe than I had ever imagined. It felt like I was being rocked on the boat all day long, leaving me unable to get out of the bed. When I explained my condition to my workplace, they recommended taking a leave of absence, which I gratefully accepted. I was spending most of my time at home, but there were days when I couldn't do any chores. On that day, I was bedridden from the morning, unable to do anything, when Kai returned home late. "Hey, why are you in bed? Where's my dinner?" "I couldn't make it. I'm not feeling well. Sorry, but you can have the frozen meals in the fridge." "You were at home all day, and you still couldn't do the housework?" He yelled at me in frustration. I tried to make him understand my suffering, but he wouldn't listen. Instead, he said with a stern face, "Pregnancy isn't an illness. Don't use it as an excuse to skip work and chores. Now, make me dinner." Before I could respond, I rushed to the bathroom, feeling a surge of nauseousness. He continued to throw hurtful words at me. "Don't think for a moment that you can earn sympathy." "That's not my intention. I'm really suffering here." He let out a deliberate sigh. "Just do what you're supposed to do. If there's no food when I get back next time, you'll regret it." In the end, I cooked his dinner while battling nausea. He didn't show any concern for me during my pregnancy, and he continued to damage perfect housekeeping, just as he did before. He was often away from home but criticized me at length when he returned, scolding me for not doing the chores as expected. My life was becoming unbearable, and the idea of divorce crossed my mind multiple times. However, thinking about my family and in-laws, who had been so happy about our marriage, I couldn't bring myself to confide in anyone. I couldn't bear to take the father away from our unborn child either. So, I endured it desperately. As time passed, I entered the last trimester of my pregnancy. The due date was approaching, and I asked Kai to be home as much as possible. However, he continued work late, as if nothing had changed. That day, it was raining cats and dogs, and thunder started rumbling as the hour passed. I could feel contractions in my abdomen, but I was at ease as Kai was at home. Around 8 p.m., my stomach started cramping. I measured the intervals and realized the pain was coming every 20 minutes. I was in labor and needed to get to the hospital. Feeling anxious, I asked Kai, "I think I'm in labor. Can you drive me to the hospital? He agreed with a look of annoyance. I got ready in a hurry and followed him out the door. When we reached the parking lot of our apartment complex, his phone beeped. He stopped to read the message and then uttered something unbelievable. I'm invited to have drinks with my coworker. I gotta go now. What? I couldn't believe my ears. There I was, enduring the massive pain, and he was going for drinks. I desperately pleaded with him. Are you kidding me? I'm in labor right now. Take a taxi or something. You'll be fine. Seriously? Wait. As I was about to protest, another wave of pain hit, and I crouched down on the ground. Without even glancing at me, he hopped in the car and drove away, leaving me behind. At that moment, I was quietly seething with anger. I swore to myself that I wouldn't let him get away with it. I didn't have the luxury to dwell on that and try to call a taxi, but due to the heavy rain, it was impossible to find one. I sent a message to a WhatsApp group with my father and brother, asking for help. 30 minutes later, they arrived in a panic frenzy. They rushed over to me as I crouched in the parking lot. Oh my God, are you okay? Get in the car quickly and head to the hospital. My brother picked me up and helped me into the car. My father looked perplexed and uttered, What on earth is Kai doing at a time like this? Once we were in the car, I waited for the pain to ease and then explained everything about his mistreatment. They were utterly shocked. No, I can't believe he was that kind of guy. Anyway, let's focus on your childbirth. Don't worry, we will be with you the whole time. And so, we arrived at the hospital. By then, the contractions were coming every 5 minutes, and I was soon on the delivery table. Later that night, I gave birth to my daughter. The delivery progressed quite quickly, and the doctor mentioned that I might have delivered the baby in the car if I hadn't arrived then. I cradled my adorable tiny daughter in my arms. My father and brother, who had been by my side without a moment's rest, were also moved to tears when they saw her. Congratulations, Sabrina. You did great. You should get some rest now. Exhausted from giving birth, I quickly fell asleep. After some time, I was awakened by the repeated calls on my phone. The caller was Kai. I tried to ignore it and focused on asking the nurse for advice on caring for the baby. Meanwhile, my phone kept ringing, and I worried that it'd wake my sleeping baby. So, reluctantly, I answered the phone. Right away, I heard Kai's panicked voice. Sabrina, help me! In a flat and cold tone, I replied, Who is this? What? He sounded baffled. You must have the wrong number, so I hung up. As I was about to end the call, he urgently shouted, Wait! When I came home this morning, your father and brother were there, and they've been giving me hell. They've been scolding me for 2 hours now, and it looks like they're about to beat me up. Help me, make them leave. I see. Well, I unilaterally hung up the phone. Afterward, my friends dropped by, delighted to see the baby's face. When my close friend Kat, who used to work with me, came over, she hesitated before revealing something. I'm sorry, it's not so appropriate for me to bring this up now, but what she told me was shocking, and I clenched my fist in anger. The next day, I was discharged from the hospital. When I returned home with the baby, I was met with a surprising sight. Kai was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the living room with a badly swollen face. My father, brother, and in-laws surrounded him, glaring at him. As soon as Kai saw me, he cried out, "Honey, you're back! Help me!" What in the world is going on here? But I was taken aback by the disturbing scene. My father-in-law reassured me. "Don't worry, it was me who gave him a lesson. It wasn't your father or brother." I was relieved to hear that at least. Kai gathered himself and said, "Well, our baby's back now, so let's drop this issue. I've reflected on my actions enough. Honey, let me hold her." He stretched out his arms toward me. I immediately stepped back to protect the baby. "Do you really think I'd let someone who let me in the labor pain and disappeared touch our child? I won't let you lay the finger on her. Stay away." At that moment, he turned beet red and his eyes widened. "Hey, who do you think you're talking to?" I decided it was time to drop a bombshell on him. "You know, it wasn't drinks with co-workers that day, was it?" "What are you talking about?" He looked confused, and I thrust my phone screen in front of his face. "This is a picture my friend took on the day when I went to labor. Care to explain this?" There was him, arm in arm with an unknown woman, entering the hotel on the screen. What Kat revealed to me was his affair. She had coincidentally witnessed it and took pictures. She didn't want to accept me during my last trimester, so she was going to keep it a secret until the time was right. When she learned that I have already given birth, she felt that I needed to know. Kai, pale as a ghost, stared at the incriminating photo. Everyone around us was in shock, and there was an eerie silence. "No, this is..." Before he could say more, he was slammed into the wall. I didn't understand what was happening for a moment, but by the time I realized it, my mother-in-law was breathing heavily. It turned out she had tackled him. She might have retired from wrestling, but she was still quite formidable. "What the heck, Mom?" As she coughed and sputtered, my father coldly replied, "You, what the heck have you done to my daughter? Explain yourself." Cornered by the four sturdy adults, he began to speak meekly. He admitted to starting an affair with a co-worker right before my pregnancy, intending to break it off once our child was born. He explained that he was going to meet her for the last time on that day. "Please, believe me, I'll never cheat again. I'll be committed to you and the baby from now on." Before I could say anything, my father-in-law roared, "Cut the nonsense! Your sweet talk won't work here." But our child needs a father, right? Right, honey?" He reached out to me for support, but I forcefully pushed his hand away. "We're better off without a father like you. Cheating while I was suffering from morning sickness. What the heck? I will never forgive you. Get ready for divorce and child support." "No." Then my mother-in-law addressed me. "Sabrina, we're truly sorry. We're going to straighten him out." I nodded, and my in-laws grabbed him by the collar and dragged him away. I was left being comforted by my father and brother. Almost a year later, our divorce was finalized. The $30,000 alimony was quickly transferred to my account. As for child support, my ex-in-laws lent the money to Kai, and it was paid in the lump sum. To my surprise, his mistress reached out to me and apologized. She claimed not to know about our marriage and my pregnancy. She offered to pay some compensation as a sincere apology, but I declined and told her not to contact me anymore. She ended up breaking up with Kai and moved back to her hometown. My ex-in-laws forced him to quit his job and got him a position at a construction company owned by an acquaintance. He now lives under strict supervision, working hard to repay the money he owes to them. He faces daily scolding from his younger boss and is apparently exhausted every day, but I have no intention of forgiving him yet. In fact, I find satisfaction in his misfortune. As for me, I used the alimony to move to a new place and start a fresh life with my daughter. My father and brother frequently visit us and help with parenting. I also let my daughter spend time with my ex-in-laws, who became allies in this situation. Moving forward, I'm determined to raise my daughter with all my heart, while I remember to be always grateful to my family.
About half a year after getting married, an event struck my life out of the blue. I was saddled with caring for my father-in-law, who became bedridden after an accident. As I struggled with caregiving for the first time, my husband said to me,
"You handle my dad's care. We're going to relax in Hawaii."
He and my mother-in-law left for Hawaii, leaving me behind. But they were unaware of the tragedy their decision would later cause. My name is Adeline. I'm 30 years old. I've always loved cooking, so after college, I joined a major restaurant chain. 8 years in, I'm now in charge of developing new products in the planning department. I met Will, who would later become my husband, 2 years ago. I happened to go to my favorite bar alone, and since it was full, I was seated at the counter next to Will. We struck up a conversation through the bar's owner and found out we were the same age. Our chat quickly blossomed, and we ended up exchanging contact information. Since then, Will would regularly ask me out for meals, and we started dating. I found myself drawn to his bright and funny personality, and it seemed he felt the same. Our relationship naturally progressed, and after dating for a year, we tied the knot 6 months ago. Currently, we're enjoying newlywed life in an apartment halfway between our workplaces. Both of us working means sometimes skimping on housework, but he always said with a smile,
"Don't worry about the housework being perfect. I'm happy just being with you, Adeline."
I wish I had time to make a proper dinner, though.
"Oh, it's fine. Just having dinner with the person I love is happiness enough for me. That's what I think."
Thanks. You're always so kind, babe.
Only to you, honey. I want to be super kind to the person I love.
That makes me happy. I'm so glad I became your wife.
Me too. Having a wife like you makes me super happy.
Even half a year into our marriage, our relationship was so good that we could have such conversations. I thought our happy days would continue forever. But those happy days suddenly became out of reach. One day, when I came home from work, Will was already in the living room. Usually, whoever gets home first would greet the other. But the atmosphere was strangely heavy that day. He was frowning at his phone, and I tentatively spoke to him. "Hey, you. I'm home. Is everything okay?"
"Hi, babe. Welcome back. I was just zoning out.
You looked really worried. Did something happen?
Well, I just got a call from Mom.
From your mother?
Dad had an accident.
What? I was so shocked. I couldn't quite process his words. But we couldn't just sit around at home. I held his hand and said, "What are you sitting around for? We need to go to your dad right now."
No, we can't right now.
Why not?
Dad's not in a state to be seen right now.
You mean his condition is really bad?
Yeah, Mom says she'll stay with him until he settles down. So, we don't need to go.
Oh. His words let me know there was nothing I could do at the moment. I let go of his hand and sat down on the sofa as well. I hope he's okay. Will remained silent. His silence only amplified my anxiety. Just the other day, my father-in-law, Derek, had celebrated his 65th birthday. He always took care of his health and was the picture of wellness, going hiking and golfing on weekends. He runs a company, and my husband works for him. It must be tough for him to see his father, who's also his boss, like this. He was incredibly down that day, which was hard to imagine, given his usual cheerfulness. A week later, we were finally able to visit Derek. As Will and I headed to his hospital room, he lay there with a weak smile. "Derek, how are you feeling?" He scratched his head apologetically in response to my question.
"Oh, Adeline, I feel bad that I've made you guys worry."
Don't be silly. I'm just relieved that you're safe."
Huh, it's nice to hear you say that. I can talk, slowly but surely. I'm okay.
I'm glad. But please, take it easy for a while, okay? His face lit up with joy at my words. Seeing his smile, I felt a bit relieved. It seems the accident damaged his spinal cord, and he still has some paralysis. The plan for treatment is to stay in the hospital for about 2 months of rehab, and then see how things go. He'll need regular rehab after he's discharged. While he is away, Will take over as the acting president of the company. Although it's only temporary, the idea of my husband becoming the president feels strange. As I watched the guys talk, my mother-in-law Paulina appeared in the hospital room. She called me over to the corner of the room and spoke to me with a tone dripping with sarcasm. "Hey, Adeline. You do understand your place, don't you?" What do you mean? "Well, just because Will is becoming president doesn't mean you'll have it easy. Understand? Don't get too comfortable with him being in that position. Okay?" "There's no need to worry about that. I work and earn my own salary. Thank you." We'll see about that. After all, you approached Will knowing he was the son of the president, didn't you? Shame on you." She scoffed at me, casually tossing out such accusations. But that was just her imagination, not the truth. I found out Will was the president's son well after we started dating. From the beginning of our marriage, Paulina has consistently treated me with this kind of disdain. I didn't want to be disliked based on a misunderstanding, so I corrected her on the spot. Paulina, I didn't approach him for his money. I fell for him because of who he is as a person.
Sure. Like I believe anything that comes out of your mouth.
I'm telling you the truth. You got the whole thing wrong.
Whatever. No matter what you say, I will never approve of you.
How could you say that? Perhaps, noticing our conversation, Derek asked,
What's going on?
She dismissed it with a
nothing
and glared at me. It was clear from her behavior that she doted on Will. She probably sees me as a gold digger who got close to her son for his money after just a year of dating. She has been cold to me since we went to greet her for marriage. But to think she would speak to me like this, even with her husband in this condition? To complicate matters, my husband is also very fond of his mother. A few days later, he suddenly said something unexpected.
Adeline, Dad's probably going to be discharged from the hospital in 2 months. That's when we're moving back to my folks' place.
Wait a minute. Why all of a sudden?
Mom suggested it. She said it's about time we all live together. Come on, you know it would be tough on Dad if Mom's by herself, right?
Yeah, but springing this on me all of a sudden is a bit much.
What are you talking about? We should be grateful. Mom's offering for us all to be together.
I struggled to find the words to express what he meant by grateful. I stood there, perplexed, while he firmly stated his case.
Anyway, it's already been decided. Start packing so we're ready to move in together.
Hold on. If we move to your family's place, our commute will become a hassle. We specifically chose an apartment midway between our workplaces for a reason.
It's only about a 15-minute drive from the house. If anything, it's closer for you. You're lucky.
It seems that he and his mother had already settled the matter of living together. Despite my repeated attempts to put off the idea, he never listened to what I had to say. Recently, he had become more devoted to his mother than ever before. At the same time, his attitude toward me had grown increasingly harsh with each passing day. Today was no different, as he came to me with another nagging lecture.
Hey, how's the packing going? I can't take time off on moving day, so you'll have to cover for me, okay? You'll also handle the caregiving and the housework. Don't put any strain on Mom.
The stress of moving preparations, along with a peak period at work, was taking a mental toll on me. 2 months later, we successfully moved, and Derek was discharged from the hospital. But without a moment's rest, I was thrust into the unfamiliar world of caregiving. I woke at 4 a.m. to prepare breakfast and do the laundry. Once that was done, I would hurry to help Derek with his morning massage and getting dressed. I had to eat before Will and Paulina, and right after finishing, I helped Derek with his meal. Only after everyone had breakfast could I finally head to work. Despite my efforts in caregiving and household chores, it seemed I could never satisfy Paulina. Every morning, as I tried to leave for work, she would invariably hold me back. "Adeline, dear, could I have a word?" "I'm sorry, I really need to get going." "Don't you get smart with me, young lady. I wanted to express some concerns about breakfast." "I'll listen when I get back, but for now, I really must." "Don't talk back to me. Sit down." "But please." "Sit down now." With her shout, I started getting a throbbing headache. Lately, every unreasonable lecture from Will or his mother triggered palpitations and headaches. Responding would only make matters worse, though. Remaining silent was the quickest way to end the confrontation. Because of her lectures, I was always nearly late for work. Having never been late before, my colleagues began to express concern. 3 months had passed since Derek's discharge, and my days were busier than ever. After returning from work, I had to immediately start preparing dinner. One evening, rushed by the lack of time, Will criticized the meal I hurriedly put together.
Hey, Adeline. What the hell is this? I come home tired, and this is what I get?
"I'm sorry, I had to step away to wash Derek, so I just made stew."
Make something more substantial next time, will you?
Paulina just smirked at my silence. Feeling dejected, I went to help Derek with his evening routine. Noticing my demeanor, he expressed concern.
Adeline, dear, you don't look well. Are you alright?
"Oh, yes, I'm fine. Just a little busy with work."
Are you sure that's all? I've been hearing a lot of shouting from my wife and Will.
"It's all my fault. I'm just not very efficient at things."
Well, I don't see it that way.
To keep him from worrying, I forced the biggest smile I could manage and lied. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to keep it together. Honestly, I wanted to escape from here for so long, but now I kept thinking, what would happen to him if I left? With that thought, I just couldn't bring myself to abandon everything. As the end of the year approached, I got some time off from work, but that just meant I was stuck with more chores at home. It was on New Year's Eve that Paulina dropped a bombshell.
Mom and I are going to Hawaii.
What? Hawaii?
Yeah, Mom and I have been planning this.
Wait a minute. How can you even think of that with your dad in this condition?
It's fine. You're here, right? You're off work. You can handle it.
My husband and his mother had this smug look on their faces as they showed off their huge suitcases. They seemed to find my bewildered state amusing, barely holding back their laughter. On the day of the trip, as they were leaving the house, Will casually said,
Take good care of Dad. We're going to chill in Hawaii. Good luck on your own.
They laughed and closed the door behind them. That's when something inside me just snapped. Good luck? Take care of him? What is he even talking about? Why do I, the daughter-in-law, have to do everything by myself? That's it. When they get back, I'm definitely getting a divorce. I felt much better when I said that to myself, and I decided to devote myself to caring for Derek while they were gone. Since I was going to get a divorce anyway, I didn't bother with the housework. The next day, as usual, I prepared breakfast for Derek and took a towel and clothes to his room. That's when he greeted me with a smile.
Happy New Year, Adeline.
Happy New Year to you too, Derek.
Where are Will and Paulina? It seemed like there was some trouble last night.
They went on a trip to Hawaii.
Hawaii?
He asked, a look of confusion spreading across his face, followed by a deep sigh. I didn't know how to respond, so I stayed quiet. Then, unexpectedly, my bedridden father-in-law sat up. What in the world?
Let's get started. Adeline, I owe you an apology.
Wait. Are you sure you're okay?
I've been able to get up by myself for a few days now. I was just waiting for the right time to show everyone. I never thought those two would give me such a perfect opportunity.
What do you mean? Then he started to explain with a sly grin. Apparently he had been trying to do something about the situation where I was the only one being overworked. He'd asked his wife and son for help, but they completely ignored him. Moreover, he received a call from the company's executive vice president, reporting that my husband, who was acting as president, was doing whatever he wanted. It seemed likely that they used company funds for their trip. So, Derek got in touch with people at the company and had them monitor my husband's actions. It turned out that his work attitude was lazy, and the employees were all angry. Derek was planning to return as president after the new year, and my husband was going to be demoted back to a regular employee. But after this incident, Derek decided to fire him. Regarding the house, it was actually in my father-in-law's name. He'd made plans to change the locks while they were away, so when they returned, they wouldn't be able to get in. A week later, there was a ruckus at the front door and the intercom started buzzing non-stop. My husband and his mother had returned from Hawaii and were trying to force the door open. I responded to them through the intercom monitor. Welcome back. How was the trip?
Adeline, you're home? I can't get the door open. Open it quick.
Sorry, but I can't. Your father told me not to let you in.
What? What are you talking about?
So, did you guys have a good time on that trip, funded by the company's money?
What? How did you...
Will, with a look on his face that screamed,
How do you know about that?
Left me unable to help but burst into laughter as I watched their expressions on the monitor. Just then, Derek, who had been listening in, chimed in.
Aha, just as I thought. You did use the company's money, didn't you? Dad? I thought you couldn't get up. Thanks to Adeline, I've been getting help with my rehab from Adeline every day. I've been able to get up for a few days now. I've also heard about your terrible behavior at the company from the executive director. The executive director? You're kidding, right? No, that's not true, Dad. I didn't. You didn't what? You're incompetent, and you're fired. Pack your stuff and leave the company now.
Will started to plead with tears in his eyes, visible through the monitor.
Adeline, honey, you wouldn't abandon me, right?
To his pleading, I stated firmly, Are you kidding me? Do you have any idea how I've felt since the day you decided we would move in here? You and your mother took me for granted, pushing his care onto me. Do you understand how hard that was for me?
Calm down, Adeline. I'm sorry, I'll apologize.
Your apologies are worthless. It became clear to me when you all left for that trip. Being a family with you is just a waste of time. I'm going to live on my own. I've had it with a mama's boy like you. At my words, he stumbled backward, but his mother supported him immediately. The scene was a pitiful display of a mother and son. They kept screaming, "Open the door," but Derek never responded to their pleas. With the help of the lawyer contracted by Derek's company, our divorce was finalized. Since then, I haven't seen them. Rumor has it the mother and son duo both are unemployed and unable to rent a place, living in cheap motels and picking up day labor. It's a far cry from their previous lives, but well-deserved punishment, if you ask me. After the divorce was finalized, Derek said to me,
"I'll hire a housekeeper, so go live your life."
Taking him up on his offer, I moved closer to my workplace. Now I spend my days comfortably and fulfilled. I can never thank my father-in-law enough for saving me. Somehow, someday, I intend to repay this kindness. Watching the news, I was beside myself with worry. They were reporting that the plane my husband was on for his business trip had crashed. I couldn't get through to him, no matter how many times I tried calling. "Please, pick up." And then, as usual, I got an email from my husband saying,
"Just landed."
"Oh, thank goodness." But my relief was short-lived when the news anchor stated,
"There are no survivors."
Huh? How can that be? Wasn't the plane safe after all? My name is Kathy. I live with my husband, Tyson, of 5 years, and our daughter, Julie, who's about to turn 3. I quit my job when I got pregnant, and now I'm a stay-at-home mom. Julie has gotten past her terrible twos and has recently started to be a big help around the house. Those terrible twos were tough, but now I'm enjoying parenting without the stress. As my relationship with my daughter grows stronger, life with Tyson has become somewhat dull. Lately, he's barely home, except to sleep. Maybe because he's so busy with work. Sometimes he comes home, smelling like women's perfume, which makes me wonder if he's been to a club or something. With all the sudden calls to work and weekend shifts, he hardly has any time to spend with Julie and me. "Does Daddy not like me anymore?" she would murmur, and I would hug her tight and stroke her head gently. "Of course not, sweetheart. Daddy's just really busy with work. He's working hard so that we can have this life together. Your birthday is on a Sunday this time, and he's promised to celebrate with us. So let's look forward to playing a lot with him then." Seeing her look so sad, I had pleaded with him to at least be there for her birthday.
"I'll definitely take the day off,"
he had promised, and I was looking forward to celebrating together as a family. Her birthday is next month. We're planning to celebrate with my in-laws, who live just a 15-minute drive away and are quite close to Julie. Tyson has a sister, Hannah, who has 2 kids, and they live in the same city. The grandparents love both their grandchildren equally, which is something I'm really grateful for, as I've heard that some favor their daughter's children over their daughter-in-laws. Some even urge the daughter-in-law to have a boy instead of a girl, so that he can carry on the family name. So one day, Tyson tells me,
"I have to go on a business trip overseas for 2 weeks, starting on the 8th next month."
I asked him to repeat himself. "Wait, an international business trip?"
"Yeah, from the 8th of next month, for 2 weeks. I'm flying to France. It's going to take over half a day by plane,"
he replied, seemingly annoyed. I couldn't hold back and confronted him. "You do remember that Julie's birthday is on the 10th, next month, right? You promised we'd celebrate together. I've already told her about it. Just today, she was feeling so sad, wondering if you didn't like her anymore. How can you break your promise to be here for our daughter's birthday?" It was unbearable to think of her feelings. I was seeing red.
"I can't help it. It's work. I wish I could celebrate with her too,"
he said, and I was taken aback. Looking at him, I could see the pain on his face. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I just got a little carried away because I feel so sorry for her. After I apologized, he patted my shoulder and said,
Oh, I'll prepare a gift. So, ask her what she wants. My parents will be there, so she won't be lonely. And next year, I promise, we'll celebrate together for sure.
Okay. You promise? I pressed him, deciding to let it go this time. I'll have to make sure Julie doesn't feel too lonely without her dad. So, I'll go all out with the decorations and cooking. I talked to my in-laws about his business trip and asked if they could stay over at our place on her birthday. Then my mother-in-law, Mary, said,
It's unfortunate that he has to be away for Julie's birthday, but leave it to us. We'll make sure she'll have a great time. I already told Scott, and he started getting ready for the sleepover.
Her response lifted my spirits. If only Julie would be a little happier with this. The next day I told her about Tyson's business trip abroad. She looked sad, and her eyes welled up with tears.
But, Grandpa and Grandma said they'd stay over for your birthday.
I tried to say cheerfully. At that moment, her face lit up. It seemed to lift her spirits a bit. The day after Tyson left for his trip, Mary called.
Kathy, do you need anything for tomorrow? I've got the presents ready and the cake ordered. Is there anything else you want? It must be hard preparing all by yourself with Tyson away. Just tell me if you need anything, okay? We'll come over early tomorrow.
I was so grateful for her thoughtfulness and immediately thanked her. Thank you, Mary. I just got back from shopping with Julie to pick out what she wanted. I've got the decorations ready too. So we're all set. Thanks for the presents and the cake.
It's no problem at all. It's fun to choose these things. Scott has been fidgety for a week now. I told him he's too eager.
She replied, and I couldn't help but smile. It's great to have such wonderful in-laws. Even without my husband, tomorrow is sure to be a fun day. After chatting for a while, Mary changed the subject.
By the way, has Tyson landed yet? Didn't he say he'd be moving to another location after he got there?
He mentioned he had to take a connecting flight. He should have landed by now, but I haven't heard from him yet. So maybe his flight's delayed. I replied, thinking to check the flight number he'd left with me once we hung up. Just then, her voice trembling, she said,
Kathy, was he flying to France?
I sensed something was wrong. Yes, but why?
Turn on the TV right now. They're saying a plane crashed in France on the news.
What? I turned on the TV in a hurry and saw an emergency broadcast of the crash site. I was so shocked that I dropped my cell phone. I heard Mary's scream and quickly picked it back up.
Stay calm, Kathy. We still don't know it's his flight.
You're right, I replied, though I was overwhelmed with anxiety. What if something had happened to him? While I was worried, the news anchor delivered the unbearable truth. It was the same aircraft model that my husband was on.
Mary, that's Tyson's flight. What?
What do we do?
Tyson.
I collapsed to my knees, feeling my mouth go dry as tears streamed down my face, unbidden.
Kathy.
Mary's loud voice pulled me back to reality.
Stay strong, Kathy. We don't know what's happened to Tyson yet. Try to get in touch with him. I'm on my way over right now, so stay calm. Okay, honey?
Okay. After hanging up with her, I immediately called Tyson, but all I heard was the hollow sound of the ringing tone. Please, no. This can't be happening. Why wouldn't he answer? Desperately, I typed a text to him, asking, "Are you okay?" Clutching my phone tightly, I stared at the screen until, to my relief, he texted back.
Just landed.
Oh, thank goodness. Tears of relief overflowed as I started to reply to his message. It was then that I heard these words from the TV I had left on.
There are no survivors.
Huh? No survivors? How can that be? That was supposed to be the same type of plane Tyson was on. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I stopped texting and made a phone call instead. But I couldn't get through at all. Why isn't he answering the phone? When I switched to text messages, I finally got a text back from him.
Oh, I just got to the airport, and there's a lot to do, like picking up luggage.
Seriously? He's not even thinking about how worried I am. I was getting increasingly agitated, a mix of anxiety and anger building up. The news said your plane crashed. I was so worried. Just pick up the phone for a second. Let's do a video call so I can see your face.
I'm safe. The crash wasn't my flight. I'll call later. I have to get moving now.
He sent such a carefree text. After that, no matter how many texts I sent, he didn't reply. Ugh. Can't he see how worried I am? Well, at least I was able to confirm he's safe. But my mood completely soured when Mary called.
I just called Tyson's company before heading over. They said he's on extended leave. They were like, business trip abroad? It didn't seem like they knew what I was talking about.
Her words made me realize everything. So, that's it. The long business trip to France was a lie from the start. Had I ever felt such hatred towards my husband since we got married? Mary. I decided to tell her about everything. About him hardly ever coming home, showing no interest in the family, returning with the smell of women's perfume on him. I had been reluctant to suspect infidelity, just because of the perfume scent, and tried not to think about it. But now that he's taken a long leave and lied about a business trip, infidelity was the only thing that made sense. Mary was openly furious with my conclusion.
That idiot son of mine! It's us who were foolish to worry. Kathy, come over to our house. It must be tough to be there with just Julie.
I decided to take her up on her offer. Once the move settled down, Mary and Scott apologized to me again. Even Hannah, my sister-in-law, came to cheer me up after hearing about it. I was touched, all over again, by the kindness of my husband's family. Despite them being such good people, I couldn't help but wonder why Tyson was such a jerk. I ended up hiring a detective agency to gather evidence of his infidelity. Then I got a photo of him at the airport with his mistress. Unforgivable. So he really was cheating. 2 weeks later, Tyson finally called.
Hello, Kathy? Where are you? I just got back from my trip, but my key won't work. Can you come and unlock the door?
He must think I'm oblivious. His voice was so nonchalant. I decided to confront him with reality. Even if I came, it wouldn't open. I don't have a key. And even if I did, the old locks have probably been changed by now.
What? Changed? What are you talking about? You're Kathy, right?
I could tell he was flustered over the phone. We've moved out. I can't be a family with a cheating man who goes on an affair trip on our daughter's birthday.
What are you talking about?
My anger was rising as he played dumb. You think I don't know? I know everything. That you took a long leave from work, that you didn't go to France but the Maldives instead.
Calm down, Kathy. There's some mistake. All right, there was a colleague who took a long leave. Maybe you're confusing me with him?
Are you kidding me? You think you can fool me with that? I'm underestimated, that's for sure. Well, yeah, of course. You've been claiming overtime, working on weekends, all while cheating. I couldn't contain my anger and raised my voice. Deep down, I wanted to lash out and hurl insults. But I was so overwhelmed with emotion, simply stating the facts was all I could manage. I'm divorcing you. You're definitely going to pay alimony and child support. Then I heard him shout.
Wait.
What now? I snapped back and he stammered in response.
I'm sorry. I did have an affair, sure. But it was just for fun. The truth is, Kathy, you're the only one I love.
That makes me sick. I retorted, hearing his voice fade, as if vanishing. My words seemed to have an effect. But I had more to say. Nice acting job. But how can I take seriously the words of a man who ditches his daughter's birthday for a cheating getaway? Did you think saying it was just for fun makes it excusable? Cut the crap. I'll never forgive you or your mistress. His tone shifted sharply to irritation as he retorted.
Huh? I'm here apologizing and you're giving me attitude. Who do you think provides the lifestyle you're living? If we divorce, you're the one who's going to suffer. Stop making a fuss about an affair. And enough with the birthday nagging. Is it really that important?
Then my sister-in-law Hannah snatched the phone from me. Who would want to stay with someone who can't even cherish his own daughter's birthday?
Huh? Hannah? Why are you with Kathy?
He seemed surprised by her sudden involvement. But that wasn't the end. There were more surprises to come. I'm here too.
Mom? I'm here as well. Dad too?
At this point, I revealed our ruse to Tyson. We figured you'd call once you realized you couldn't get in the house, so we were all waiting. Julie's with Hannah's husband. Then Scott shouted,
You're no son of mine. Don't ever think of stepping foot in this house again.
Mary and Hannah began their onslaught, one after the other.
Your stuff is stored in the shed. Get it if you need to. If it's not gone by tomorrow, I'm throwing it all out.
Tyson, how could you do this to Kathy? Disgusting. The worst. Don't ever come near us again.
No, just wait. I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. I apologize, so please, don't say such things.
His family's words clearly wounded him. He sounded like he was about to cry, desperately pleading. But nobody was willing to forgive him. I yelled at him. Don't you understand how unforgivable it is to be cheated on just because you had a whim? You've been cheating for a long time. Don't you dare lie to me at this point. Enough with your cheating, jerk. If you don't agree to divorce, I'll take you to court. Then he panicked at the mention of court and quickly agreed to the divorce. The next day, Tyson showed up at his parents' doorstep to apologize, but all he got were cold stares. Unable to stand it, he took only the bare essentials packed in the shed and left. Afterward, I demanded a lump sum in damages from him and his mistress. Once the mistress realized she'd been caught and faced with a demand for damages, she dumped Tyson.
I've left Tyson, so forgive me.
But I had no intention of dropping the claim. She ended up taking a job in the night industry because of her debts. My husband, unable to bear the shame at work, chose to resign. However, he needed money for the alimony and child support. He's now working all day, with no time to play. Meanwhile, I'm still living with my in-laws. They continue to treat Julie and me with kindness, just as before. I hope to repay their goodness someday by doing everything I can to the best of my ability.